What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to the Save Continue podcast. My name is Tommy Shelby. With me, as always, Mr. Ryan Robinson.
Hello, nice to be here. My name is Ryan Robinson.
Shanae absent.
Yeah,
Not sure why, but she's okay.
yeah,
She'll be back someday.
yeah. She's got.
Ryan,
What's up?
what have you been playing? That's what Shanae does. What have you been playing, Ryan?
That's an excellent question. Hold on.
Good, comically big bottle.
It's not that big. It's not. Lots of Monster Hunter Rise going on.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And I'm loving it, dude. It's like just a fantastic game. I'm really enjoying it.
Nice.
I finally actually got around to doing hunts with my friends because I've been playing up until like this past weekend. I've been playing solo for the most part,
Yeah.
and it's so much fun with people. And like I think that's always been like the focus of Monster Hunter ever since its inception.
Sure.
Is teaming up with your friends, but they've expanded. Every time they seem to expand the experience out a little bit more. So I've unlocked this thing in the game called Switch Attacks, which is from
Get it? Nintendo Switch.
yeah, and they are these moves that you can add. Like so you have existing moves in your move set, and the Switch attacks allow you to switch them out for other new attacks that change the behavior of the weapon and tailor the weapon more to your playstyle. So
Okay.
I've been doing a lot of experimentation with that, and I'm finding more enjoyment out of weapons I kind of shied away from before. So
Yeah.
that's been a blast. But I've
Do
also
you find yourself changing weapons a lot in Monster Hunter games?
yeah. So that's the thing, right? Is that
I mean, like types, you know?
yeah. So I think like a lot of people they consider themselves a great sword main or an insect glaive main,
Right.
and
Right.
I'm kind of like whenever the mood strikes me, I'm just gonna change my weapon.
Sure.
But the thing about that is that I want to start using a different weapon, so I'm grinding for parts to make that other weapon so I can start using it and making it valuable
Right,
at the
right,
stage
right.
that I'm at. Well, that said, I think that Rise has done the best job of making every weapon feel accessible and fun in its own way. Whereas,
Yeah.
like with previous games, like I would never touch the long sword, and I very rarely touch, the dual blades. But like they all feel so much better now, and I feel like I
Yeah.
can be viable with any of the weapons. So it's been really fun, like experimenting with different weapons, and I just saw credits in the game today.
Oh, dang.
But like I'm remembering now that previously when you would see credits, that meant now it's time for high rank mode.
Right.
So
right.
now I've just started high rank mode and everything, and I haven't actually done a high rank hunt yet, but I'm gearing up for it.
Nice.
Also, still working on Persona 5 Royal. I've been playing less Royal lately because of Monster
Because of
Hunter.
the Monster Hunter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm really I'm pretty sure I'm pretty late in the game at this point.
Yeah. In Royal.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I'm the story is so there was a point in the story where right before it goes into the next cutscene, a warning comes up and like, hey, the story's about to start going really fast from here on out, so you should
Right.
probably save right now.
Right.
And
Right.
and so like right after that moment, like I saved like 4 times just to make sure I had done it, and then after that, like 4 twists come out of nowhere, and so but yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing like how that game wraps up, and
I always appreciate when games give you that warning.
Yeah.
You know? You don't see it often.
yeah, we'll see. Like when I got to that point, it was like 3 a.m, and
Yeah.
I was like, I need to find a stopping point, like in this game, so I can go
Sure.
to bed. And that was like an excellent stopping point. But yeah, so I'm working on that, and then as I mentioned in our group text the other day, the new update for No Man's Sky just dropped a few days ago.
Okay.
So it's a new update called Expeditions. And what Expeditions is basically a seasonal mode for No Man's Sky.
Weird, but cool.
So each expedition has 5 phases, and each of these 5 phases, they have different milestones for you to complete. And for every milestone you complete, you get a bunch of rewards, which can also be applied across all of your saves. So, for example, one of the milestones in phase 1 is take off in your ship. The next and another one is leave the solar system that you're in. And then with each phase, the objectives get harder and harder and harder.
Yeah.
But like again, with each milestone, they give you different rewards to make the rest of the expedition easier in some way. And so I'm currently on a point at which one of the milestones is plant and harvest 35 plants on your base.
Mm-hmm.
And so the thing about those plants is that they grow in real time. So I'm the idiot who chose the plant that takes 24 hours to grow, and my wife chose a plant that took 1 hour to grow, and she's basically done with that objective, I think.
But I assume the plant that takes forever to grow, there's some benefit to that? No?
So I've never really got really to, because like basically these plants are also used as ingredients in other crafting recipes, and I guess the benefit is relative to what end you're trying to accomplish.
Sure.
And also there's the economy of the game, and I guess some plant harvest can be worth more money.
That makes sense.
But yeah, it's really cool because I think that like there aren't a lot of games that I feel compelled to come back to after I've already earned the platinum.
Yeah.
But Hello Games keeps finding ways to bring me back into this game.
Yeah.
And I think that the introduction of a seasonal mode, which is what is effectively a seasonal mode, is like a great way to foster long-term investment in people who have already, reached that milestone in the game. And they've been talking about like how different like expeditions are going to have different themes moving forward. Like this one was meant to kind of have people like kind of take No Man's Sky back to like the exploration aspect of the game, and bring people back to interacting with that. But yeah, it's been a lot of fun. It's really fun. Like like doing all these objectives, and like each phase ends with you going to a rendezvous point, and the rendezvous point is the same for everybody, right? And so you when you start the new save, like it's basically like someone online described it as like the amazing race in No Man's Sky, because you start the save and then you find your ship, and like they give you a ship, but like everybody has a ship, and like there's like all these ships grouped together, and like you have to find which one has your name on it. And then, and then you just take off and you just go.
That's funny.
And then you get to these rendezvous points, and like there's all these people who have traveled to the rendezvous point, and like it's fun seeing like people like congregate at these places and like leave their mark. Like some people like leave messages and things like that. Some people are like they're shooting off fireworks and shit. So it's really neat.
It's interesting to see them support the game so much, like, because that game came out, what, 3-4 years ago at this point?
It's actually almost 5 years ago. It's about 4.5 years ago that game came out.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy.
And I was asking Kaylee, like, do you think that they make a No Man's Sky 2, or they just build onto No Man's Sky forever and like make a different game separately after that?
Yeah.
And I have to agree with her. I think that they just keep building onto No Man's Sky, and then whatever game, like their next game is something not No Man's Sky. And like Sean Murray has said that they are working on a game that is of the scale of No Man's Sky. So I'm interested to see what that turns out to be.
Yeah.
But yeah, for the most part, that's what I've been playing. And you reminded me that Abe is coming out tomorrow.
Oh, I forgot. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right.
Like Soulstorm's coming out tomorrow, so I'm like way excited about that. Like that was the game that had me hyped during those PS5 reveals. That was a game that had me really hyped. So
Landing.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. But what about you? What have you been playing?
So I've been playing a couple of games. So I didn't really mention this on the show, but a few weeks back, I finally got myself a new computer. I haven't had a working computer that can actually play games like good, high-end games.
Yeah.
In a little over a year now.
Right.
And it's cool because now I can play all my games, but also it's kind of making me neglect my PlayStation 5.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Which isn't necessarily a bad thing, right? There's games coming out at the end of this month that I can't play on PC.
Right.
So I'm excited to play those on PlayStation 5, right?
Right.
So currently, personally for me, with more fast-paced shooters, I prefer a keyboard and mouse.
Sure.
And now that I've got this setup back, I've been playing like a bunch of boomer shooters. And yeah, boomer shooters is a term. I didn't make that up. But I mean, old stuff that could run on a fucking potato.
Yeah.
Right.
Like you got your Quake 1s going.
Yeah, Quake and Blood and shit like that.
Yeah.
But like then I got like with this computer, I guess with the graphics card, technically, I got a free copy of Outriders.
Yeah.
So I played maybe an hour of that.
What do you think
I'm
of that?
not sure. I mean, I think it's really neat. That kind of game has never really been my sort of thing, right?
Right.
But I'm liking it, so I might stick with it. Like, it's like the rest. It's like a Borderlands or a Division or whatever. It's one of those. It's a looter shooter.
Sure.
What I like about it, it's the team that made it's People Can Fly. So these are the guys behind like Painkiller, Bulletstorm, and all that, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of cheesy and ridiculous, which I always think is fun.
Yeah.
It's probably the best looking game they've ever made.
Sure.
I like the environments a lot. It's like, so the whole story is like people left Earth because Earth was all fucked and they had to find a new planet, right?
Right.
So they're settling on this new planet and shit goes wrong and you're put into cryo and you wake up several years later.
Sure.
I think it might be like 20 years later and there's a war on the new planet now. But like, it's neat. It's got classes and the classes are interesting and fun.
Like how many classes are there?
I think right now just 3.
Okay.
The gunplay feels good. Along with People Can Fly, I know there is some of the old Gears team in this, and you can definitely feel that with the cover system and all that.
Right.
But like, I think my favorite part is the environments.
Okay.
Because like, we've got plenty of space games where you're playing on a different planet, right?
Right.
And it's always like maybe some interesting biome, maybe like trees are purple on this planet or whatever, right?
Yeah.
But this is like one of the few games I could think of where it's like, okay, yeah, shit looks different, but also like liquids will randomly float up into the air and like weird shit like that's going on, right?
Sure.
And there's these weird energy storms and like it actually feels different,
Right.
So it's pretty cool. I don't know how much of it I'll play. I've got some friends who are down to play it, so maybe I'll see about that. I picked up a game on your recommendation, which like pretty much every time you recommend a game to me, pretty much every time I'll pick it up.
Yeah.
And check it out at the very least. And sometimes I get Samurai Showdown 4.
God damn it, dude!
Right?
All I said was that there's a naked lady in this trailer. That's all I said.
But sometimes I get Sam Show 4. It's quite bad.
Yeah, that's a bad game.
Sometimes I get Proteus, which fucking rocks.
Hell yeah, dude! That game fucking rips, dude.
I've about 6 hours in right now, which is to say, I think I've played the first 5 levels.
Yeah.
Some of them multiple times because I want to go through without any deaths and all that and finding more secrets and crap.
Yeah.
I played one of the challenge maps. I think it's the shotgun challenge map. Have you done those yet?
Mm-mm.
Super fun. You're like racing the clock, but you have to shoot these targets so that platforms will appear and shit. And like,
yeah, that's really cool.
I've played a bunch of user created maps.
Yeah.
Which is super fun.
Doesn't that
It's a great game.
Doesn't that game just already feel like complete and polished already? Like I can't imagine.
It does.
I can't imagine like what like the fact that like they looked at this game and they were like, no, we have more work to do. The fact that they looked at that game and still have ways to improve on it is like really impressive.
Well, considering like when you bring up that weird weapon menu, there's a bunch of empty slots.
Yeah.
You know, so there's definitely several more guns coming.
Yeah.
They say there's more enemies coming. What it really needs is more levels. I haven't finished all the levels yet, but I will very shortly. I'm pretty sure if you just played the levels and none of the additional stuff, you'd probably get through it in a couple hours.
Right.
You know?
Right.
But the levels are really well crafted. I like the game a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
There are some interesting choices, and they're taking feedback right now.
Yeah.
But like most games of this genre don't have a whole lot of reloading, and you have to reload everything manually.
Sure.
It doesn't bother me.
Right.
But you know, it's just one of those things that people have talked about.
Yeah.
I wish they could be some sort of bunny hop system like Painkiller has. But you also already move faster than you do in Painkiller.
Right.
So maybe you don't need that.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know. Like you were talking about like playing these older shooters like that. And like, honestly, where shooters are concerned, like this is like Proteus is like my fucking vibe right now. Right. Like when it comes, when it comes to shooters, like, cause like I played that and, like I'm still gonna call it Ion Maiden, and you know Iron Maiden can sue me if they want, I guess. But like playing games like that, like I was like, dude, this feels like this is literally Duke Nukem 3D, and I'm fucking here for it.
Yeah, but it's a different thing, right? Like it's despite how they try to make it look. So the game is made with polygons.
Right.
And there is a pixelated filter on top of those polygons, which you can remove if you want to.
Yeah.
It gives you all sorts of visual options, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
But like, you know, it's not like a 3D Realms game.
Yeah.
It plays like Quake,
Yeah.
but what's interesting is that like, you know, probably my biggest complaint is like, did you have to copy all the Doom enemies?
Sure.
Because you have a zombie, you have a shotgunner zombie, you have a pinky, you've got a cacodemon, you've got a hellspawn, you've got
the classics. You know, these are the classics, right. Tom.
You've got the fucking spider. You've got like all of them.
Yeah.
You know, there is the imp. There is an equivalent to all of the Doom enemies, just about. And like, I'm hoping they're saying new enemies, so I'm hoping the new enemies are a bit more varied than that.
Yeah.
But yeah, that game fucking rocks.
Yeah, and like it's
really good.
Like and like especially like now, like I think that a lot of the time, like especially in like the AAA space, like the thing with shooters is like you really have to like push the hardware and like show what you can do with this game. But there's really something to be said about these like these shooters that are modeled after the ones from like the early 90s, like from when we were kids. Like there's absolutely something to these games. There's a reason why these games are still fun to play now. Right?
Yeah, but you know, it's such an interesting thing because like after Doom 2016, these games really started popping out a bunch, right?
Yeah.
And like you look at Proteus and like it doesn't look like a modern day game, but it doesn't look like an old game.
Right.
You know?
Right.
Like it's got a very unique style and not a lazy style at all.
Yeah.
Right? You look at a game like Dusk, which I fucking love, and that's a very low poly style.
Right.
That really kind of looks inferior to even some games like Quake or Unreal.
Right.
You know?
Like does it in a we tried too hard kind of way?
Maybe. Hard to say.
Yeah.
Then you get games like Herat, which, like, while it's a good game, looks like, oh my god, I hate to say lazy.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure it was a lot of work.
Yeah, but making video games is fucking hard.
But like, you know, sometimes it looks classic to look classic, and there's still work and creativity put into those models,
right,
and those levels. And sometimes it's like we just did this because it was easier.
Right.
You know, and Proteus is not that.
Yeah. And you can tell because like this, like it's really easy, especially when it comes to games that are still in early access. You kind of get the vibe as to whether or not like, is there something that they're actually passionate about? Is it something that they're like really actively working on and trying to make better? And because Proteus, I think, entered early access like a while ago. Not too long ago, but it wasn't that recent. But like I immediately, like when I load that game up, I immediately got the impression like these guys put some work into this game.
Yeah, the level design's great.
Yeah, yeah,
The user levels, man, are so fun.
yeah.
Of course, people are making like E1, M1, and all that, you know.
Sure.
But it's fun to do, and when you've got pretty much all the Doom enemies, you can do it.
Yeah. So like, are we? Because I haven't touched that stuff at all.
Yeah.
Are we looking at is it like a kind of a snap map sort of situation with that?
No.
No.
No, you and me, we're not going to be making levels for Proteus.
No.
No, it's too hard, man.
Yeah.
It's too complicated.
Yeah.
You open it up, and it looks like you opened up like Unity or something like that. Which I'm sure
Oh.
like some fucking dev will comment that Unity's for babies. To me, that shit looks like the Matrix. I can't do it, you know. But man, it's just so good. It's so good.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, it's like since I played that, I have not played anything else. I've just been playing that. You know?
Sure. Like you.
And like you know, we both like Doom 2016.
Yeah, that game rocks, dude.
You know,
Eternal.
and
Also.
I bought both of us Eternal day one,
Yeah.
and we both kind of dropped off of it pretty fast.
Yeah. Well, like, 'cause
You know?
I think that like
This is for me, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't need the glory kills. I don't
Yeah.
need all that crap. I don't need to chainsaw enemies for ammo.
Sure.
This is it. You know?
So I think that the reason why Doom 2016 was something that we both really liked, and Eternal was something that we were less enthusiastic about, is I think that like so Doom 2016, like there's a whole vibe about that game that the Doomslayer exists inside of and is seemingly unaware of, right? Like he's this dude and like this just vibe about him, right? But like in Eternal, like he's like now he's in on it now.
Yeah.
And then it seems like too much. And then there's all this, there's too much exposition with him and like these cutscenes and all this stuff.
And that didn't even bother me. I don't know why I couldn't get into it. I probably will go back to it at some point.
But like I think from a gameplay perspective, like for me personally, from a gameplay perspective, I think there's a little bit too much going on.
Yeah.
Like
really, I think for me it's that like before Doom 2016, I'm not going to say completely, but we were kind of starved for that sort of shooter.
Well, yeah.
You know, I mean, there's plenty of shooters, but that kind of shooter, fast-paced, running around, crazy fucking shooter,
Yeah.
we were kind of starved for.
Yeah.
After 2016, I mean, we got a Medieval, we got Dusk, we got all these games that were chasing that.
Yeah.
You know?
And then Eternal comes out and it doesn't really stand out in the same way at that point.
Right.
And I had to wonder what if Eternal, like if Doom 2016 never happened, right? And like and in its place we got Doom Eternal.
Yeah.
Like if we would have felt that way about Doom Eternal as we did.
I don't
about
know. It's hard to say. But like, you know, like I said, I don't think Doom Eternal is a bad game by any means.
Sure.
I'm sure I'll go back to it.
It's just less interesting to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like I was thinking about what you were saying about how like the games that you have a gaming computer back and it's caused you to play less PS5 and but I mean that makes sense, right? Like there's a dearth of PS5 games right now. And there are decades of PC games that you could be playing, and you have along with like your existing library, which is a few hundred games deep. So, that's like really no surprise.
Yeah.
And I think about what the way COVID has like really, really, really like affected like the development cycle of like a lot of games and has pushed like a lot of games to like the end of this year, or even outside of this year. And like in a situation where again, like we're not getting like a whole lot of PS5 games, right? Like we're getting less PS5 games at this point than we had PS4 games back in 2013.
Yeah, probably. I don't know. It's hard to say because it was kind of the same, right? We were getting a lot of last gen ports.
Sure, that's true. That's also true.
You know, if you
Um,
think about like GTA 5, a lot of people forget that was 360, that was
sure.
PS3.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
we were getting a lot of that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
But
and it's also crazy to think about that. That it's crazy to think about how GTA 5 is of that generation,
mhm.
and like that game
And they're
is
gonna put it on PS5.
yeah, that game
Yeah,
is almost 10 years old at this point.
yeah,
Um, and I think but like at the same time, I think that the pipeline was like a lot more open 8 years ago because we weren't in the middle of like a global pandemic and
oh for sure.
developers could like work on their games. And so I'm really excited to see like what games we get eventually when we do get them.
Yeah,
But
I mean, for me right now, it's Returnal is
sure,
next on the horizon.
yeah,
You know,
I'm
it's at
very
the end of
excited
this
about that.
month.
Yeah,
Around the same time is the Near Replicant remake, which
right,
I'm psyched for.
right,
That's a PS4 game, but I'll be playing it on
yeah,
PS5.
yeah,
You know,
yeah.
uh,
And
but that stuff will keep me busy for a while.
yeah,
Later in the year, we've got Back for Blood coming out, which I'm psyched for. You're going to play on PlayStation 4, so I'm sure that's where I'll play, but I'll probably end up playing it on PC as well.
yeah.
Unless the game allows for mouse and keyboard, which some shooters are doing now.
It seems to be more common,
You know,
right? Like
it's getting there.
like
It's getting
even
there.
like even competitive shooters on console are allowing for it, and so
Which I don't think is smart unless they split the lobbies.
which
You know?
which they have not been.
Yeah.
Like Apex allows for mouse and keyboard and like
Yeah.
but
Because it is an advantage, you
yeah,
know?
it definitely is. And like and I don't but they're not splitting the lobbies and like you're gonna get lit up like
Right.
playing
But for a
Apex.
game like Back for Blood, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, it
you know?
doesn't. It doesn't. And I was a little bummed when Turtle Rock said, "Hey, we're gonna have to delay the game because we want to, this."
Yeah.
But like, I was a little bummed because I was like, man, summer's almost here. That game's almost here. I'm excited, but
We got,
so it
Arcane
goes.
coming out with Deathloop and like there's
Yeah.
some stuff.
Yeah,
you
and
know?
and also like I'm excited because Zombie Army 4 is one of the free games, so like I can rope more people into that game.
Yeah, you're gonna have more friends playing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, what sucks is like the free games this month, I'm like, I've already got those.
Yeah.
Except for Soulstorm.
Sure.
So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's another one too, right? Because like I haven't touched like I haven't played New and Tasty since it came out.
mhm.
And Kayla was playing it like not too long ago, and it was fun to like watch her play that game, like fun to like see that game again. But I like man, like I'm like but that again that's that's reskinned Abe's Odyssey, right?
Right.
But like to have like a new game with Abe in it, like it's
Yeah.
exciting, and like and especially like when like there were many times where I was like, when I was like, is that studio just like dead or like what are they like but I kept receiving like I kept having getting evidence that they weren't, but like they
Yeah.
weren't putting anything out.
I'm most interested to see how it plays because it looks like it plays like Abe's Odyssey and
Yeah.
Abe's Exodus.
Yeah,
And if that's the case, which I'm fine with that. I like those games. I just wonder, like, I think there's going to be a lot of people that think that they're going to like it
sure.
that are not going to like it.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, what kind of game do you think those people are expecting? Like,
I
just
think those
looking at it?
people are thinking that it's a 2D platformer.
Sure.
And it very much is not,
Yeah.
Like yes, there is 2D
It
platforming.
is a puzzle game dressed like a platformer.
Right.
So,
Right.
which it's that's one of the things that I didn't know when I bought it when I was 12 years old.
Right. Exactly.
So,
Exactly.
but
But yeah.
it's I don't know. There's something about like on one hand, right? Like I absolutely want more games to play on this $500 machine sitting under my TV.
Sure.
But there's also I don't know. I it's hard to quantify, but like there's also something to like the anticipation of things to come. Like
For sure.
I'm sitting
For
there,
sure.
like I'm I go in the store and like I'm looking at these trailers for these games that are coming out, and there's something like there's something about like getting excited for these games that are, some of them are ways off, but
Yeah.
looking forward to like playing them and like looking forward to like reading up on them like as we get closer to release. But at the same time, like I am also enjoying the faster load times on my PS4 games and like
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. Is like the improvements to PS4 games when they actually are trying intentionally to improve them,
yeah,
unlocked frame rates and things like
yeah,
that. Like that's awesome to me
yeah,
because I still have a base PS4. I
yeah,
never got the Pro.
yeah,
So playing games like Sekiro and playing games like Ghost of Tsushima,
yeah,
uh, at a better performance than PS4 Pro had,
yeah,
is quite nice.
yeah,
And then I just saw that they updated Ratchet and Clank, which is a game I liked a lot, so I
yeah,
might go back to that.
yeah.
Um,
But like
I don't
even
know.
even stuff like as far as like I used to be so okay. So I used to be like
I believe they're finally updating Bloodborne. I'm pretty sure I heard that.
that would be cool.
Like maybe they're unlocking the frame rate there.
Yeah, that would be excellent.
Yeah.
But like even things like as far as like downloading updates and shit, right? Like there were times
Yeah.
where I'd be like, my friends would say, Ryan, we're getting ready to play some Apex, like hop on, and I'm like, I'll be right there, and then like, oops, there's an update. And, like
Yeah.
I'll be there in 30 minutes, Whereas like now, like when an update happens, it's just like it's 2 seconds, right?
Right.
And it's like the little quality of life improvements like that.
The store running better.
Oh yeah, like I could actually
Trophies loading faster.
yeah, I could actually watch a trailer in a reasonable amount of time now.
Right.
And like just things like that, and that make it that like yes, I want some PS5 games to play on this PS5, but it's like these little things do add up, and they do make a better overall experience.
Yeah.
I remember I texted a friend of mine, and like maybe it was you. I think it was you. Like I texted like I was like because I load up Persona 5 on it, and I was like, man, this thing moves weird now. And I was like, oh, this is what games faster than 30 frames per second look like. And
Right,
so
right.
like it's things like that that are really cool. But
I mean, for certain games, I think it helps a lot. Like for a game like Sekiro, I think it helps a lot. For
sure.
Devil May Cry 5, to
Yeah.
have your frame rate over 100,
Yeah.
whereas when I was originally playing that game, I was playing it at 30, which is not ideal for that kind of game.
Yeah.
Even for something like Control to actually move.
Oh yeah.
is nice.
Like let me tell you about my experience with Control. Like okay, so I went from I think like right before I got a PS5, like maybe a few weeks before, I loaded up Control on my PS4 Pro.
Yeah.
And I was just like, this is fine. Like there
Yeah.
are things that like are they're giving me pause a bit. Specific
Textures loading.
yeah.
and-
Or
yeah.
or specifically when I unpause the game, it
Right.
it's a little it's trying.
Yeah, and I played through that entire game on a base PS4.
Yeah. And then, I played, when I'm playing it now on a PS5, I'm like, holy shit, night and day.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's and like and I feel like there are times when I have said that like in reference to like the difference between 1080p and 4K, I have a hard time telling the difference. But at the same time, there had been so few instances when I had the opportunity to see those things side by side.
Right.
And like seeing the difference between 30 frames per second and an unlocked frame rate is like it's like going from 60 to 30 is like it's a very jarring experience.
Well, see, and that's always been more important to me
Yeah.
than resolution. If I can get a game to feel better to play,
Yeah.
that's most of the time more important to me, depending on the game, right?
Right.
If we're playing something like Until Dawn, sure, let's make that look as pretty as it can look because I don't really need to worry about how it runs,
Yeah. Yeah.
But most games, right, especially these faster paced games,
Yeah. And I think that honestly, I'm when it comes to thinking about how I like something to like really get me enjoying my experience with this thing, like the first game that I've heard of post Soulstorm that like really got me excited was when I first saw Returnal. I was like, dude, this game looks like a mind fuck.
Yeah.
And I'm like totally into it. And that's like this is also like, I've always had trouble figuring out like where Housemarque was going with like with their approach to video games.
They had trouble figuring it out.
So I was always just like, what are you guys doing?
Arcade is dead. We're gonna do an MMO. Oh, here's Returnal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
which apparently this is built off of the scraps of that MMO.
Yeah.
But
well, and for what it's worth, I'm not sure that I would have enjoyed a Housemarque MMO anyway.
Right. But all I mean to say is like they didn't know what they were doing either.
Yeah, and I think that like maybe this is like if this game hits, maybe they've found like something like a new like approach moving forward. I don't know.
I think considering when this game is coming out, it's going to do better for them than their last several games combined.
Yeah.
Whether it's good or not.
Yeah. Because this is absolutely not a Nex Machina. This is
right.
This is not. This is not. This is not that style of game.
But like Nex Machina was a great game.
Yeah.
Not a lot of people were interested in it.
Yeah.
Matterfall, I didn't even pick up.
Yeah.
It's their only game that I have not played, but I didn't pick it up. This, because it is a higher budget game, especially for that studio. It looks gorgeous.
Yeah, I think this is
it's on a new console that doesn't have a whole lot of games.
Yeah,
I think it's gonna sell well.
Well, that's what that's what I was thinking, right? Like this is like based like everything that all of my opinions on Returnal are based on the trailers that I watched. But
right,
like this looks like production values that I have never seen with out of Housemarque, and
right.
And so like that, what that tells me is just like, okay, well, it seems like this game was a pretty hefty investment. So it's a like I like Housemarque a lot. Like I really enjoy like that's a developer whose games like I have always enjoyed. So I really hope this pays off for them.
And even they have come out and said that like this is the first time they're focusing on a narrative.
Yeah.
Like actually trying to build an interesting narrative.
Yeah.
Not that none of their games have had narrative.
Yeah.
But, I think they actually have a writer for this game. I don't know that they ever have before,
Yeah. Well, because, like, if you play Dead Nation, like, you could look at it like, a writer didn't write this.
Yeah. Tell me the story of fucking Stardust,
Yeah. So it's cool to see, like, it's cool to see developers branching out like that in a way that like you haven't seen, and I hope that more developers do that, because I think we talked before about like I think like maybe like around the beginning of the last generation we were talking about like it's great that people are making these boxes that can make the games look better and make the tires rounder and the streets wetter, but like doing something interesting with the technology that they've got, like that's what I'm looking for, right? And like I've played a million roguelikes, right? But I think that with roguelikes, I think that there's always a way to make that interesting somehow, right? I think that there's always a way to do something new with it, right? Like for example, like Hades was the first time I played one where like the death loop of that game was like written to that narrative, right? That's like the first time like they engage with it, and that's that in and of itself to me is like a novel concept,
and it seems to be in Returnal as well.
Yeah,
which is pretty cool. But no, you're absolutely right. It's what's fun to play, right? Like what is interesting to play. I got this computer. The first thing I played was Return to Castle Wolfenstein.
Yeah,
like that's the first thing I loaded up, which like you could run on probably just about anything.
Yeah.
But that was more interesting to me than playing whatever,
Well, I mean,
Far Cry 5 or whatever.
Yeah, well, I mean, like it's at the point now, right? Like especially now that games are digital now, like
Yeah.
now that you can literally go to the video game store whenever you want. uh it's the thing of it is just like there are so many fucking games, right? And there are
Yeah.
even if we just pare it down to just the AAA space, right? There are still so many games out there, and it's hard to find one that unless you really dig deep into one of these games, it's hard to find one that stands out to you and that really jumps out to you and so that says something that shows you that it's doing something interesting. So
Well, what sucks is I feel like everything that I see that I'm like, man, that looks great, just ends up in development hell,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
When's the last time we heard about Beyond Good and Evil 2?
yeah.
Stuff like that.
Did we ever? I don't remember. Did we actually see gameplay for that?
No. Well, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, there was.
Cause when did we first see the reveal trailer for that game?
It's been a few years now. They did the reveal, and then they did that whole thing with Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
Yeah.
Yeah. Who knows?
Yeah.
But
yeah, and I don't know. I think that I don't know. I get excited about there are times when I get really excited about a game, and then you just don't hear anything about it for a while, and then I just and then my enthusiasm for it just kind of just evaporates, right? Such is the case with Dead Island 2, right?
Oh, yeah.
And we've heard about that game back in 2014.
And now Dying Light 2.
Yeah, I meant Dying Light 2. I'm sorry. But then they were just
No, but I mean Dead Island 2 as well.
yeah, well that game is not coming out. But
Yeah.
with Dying Light 2 though, right? They were they announced Dying Light 2. They showed off some stuff a little bit after they announced that, and then nothing. And then there's all this. There's hey, here's another pack for Dying Light 1. It was this is cool. Dying Light's a great game, but you're posting this with the number 2 as your profile picture, and you're not telling me anything about Dying Light 2. And then they're hey, by the way, guys, sorry, we announced that game. We announced that game too early. Sorry about that. It was
well, I do think that is going back. I do think that is another part of the reason why we were so hyped for Doom 2016.
Yeah,
because it was just announcement, and then there it is. You know?
Yeah, and I mean, I say what you will about Bethesda, and believe me, I will say what I will about Bethesda.
Oh, yeah.
But that was a great approach, right? Because 6 months is that. I could wait for a game for 6 months, no problem.
Yeah.
I could stay excited about a game for 6 months, no problem. But it's hard to say. It's hard to hear about a game, and then 5 years later, it still doesn't exist. It's hard to maintain any level of excitement for it. Now, I'm not saying that when Dying Light 2 comes out, I'm not going to buy it, because I absolutely will. But at the same time, it's just it's not at the forefront of my mind anymore. And I have I have other shit going on. So
I've got I've somewhere maybe on one of my old phones, I've got a screenshot of when I was still on Facebook. I think my daughter was in kindergarten or first grade.
yeah.
And it's a screenshot of me having a conversation on Facebook with Inti Creates in regards to the announced PlayStation Vita version of Mighty Number 9.
Yeah.
And we all know how Mighty Number 9 turned out after
Sure.
that long fucking wait. And I don't think it ever actually came to Vita.
Yeah.
Yeah,
well, I think that was the whole thing, right? That there were backers who were they had opted in for the Vita version, and then they were hey, by the way, you're not getting that. But but at the same time, I think that the bigger thing about it was, and I can't speak to I have no idea what the development of that game was like. I have literally no insight about that. Mm-hmm. But I think that you talk about the expectation of someone who is buying a Soulstorm, right? The expectation of what they think they're getting when they buy that game. And there's a very obvious expectation of what people thought they were getting with Mighty Number 9.
Right.
And
because they said that.
Yeah.
Right? They basically said this is Mega Man.
Yeah.
You know?
Right. And I don't have any like actual opinion of Mighty Number 9 because I've played maybe 10 minutes of that game and then put the controller down.
Yeah.
But I mean, it is very apparent to me that people who were playing it expecting Mega Man did not get that.
Right.
And I think that, I think that comes with like comes with certain like repercussions, like when it comes to like hyping your game up and like building expectation for like what kind of game people can expect when they finally get to purchase it. And I think that some people do like a better job than like definitely some people do a better job of tempering those expectations than others.
Sure.
But at the end of the day, right? Like I think that more than anything, I think that people what people want is to have a game announced, be excited about it, and then actually get the game that they were hoping for. And I think that a lot of the time, and many people disagree with me on this, so I'm totally used to it. But a lot of the time, I think that like I hear the phrase "hype killed this game." And I'm just like, well, like, dude, I'm a consumer. Like, my job is to be excited about the game and then buy the game. It's not my fault you guys made me excited about this game.
Right.
So, like you guys, it's not my fault. Like, you led me to expect great things of this game, and then you didn't deliver.
Right.
Like, I don't fucking work there. So
what sucks is we're seeing that more and more these days, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. Think about Mighty Number 9. Think about No Man's Sky. Think about Fallout 76. Like we're seeing it more and more.
Yeah.
Developers over promising and not delivering. The sad thing is you would think fucking Inafune could make a Mega Man game for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. But.
Well, I think, and also then it becomes like it's kind of like that sort of thing in and of itself becomes like kind of a moving target at that point, because then like so first it's about what have I been led to expect from this game, right? Mm-hmm. But then it becomes how do I respond to the very valid criticisms of the finished product, right? So you have developers who are like very snotty and shitty about it, and and then you have developers who like who react in earnest and like try to make good on the shortcomings of that product, or the shortcomings of or the missteps that took place during like promotion of that game or what have you, right? And it's really easy to kind of blame different things on the public's reaction, but the fact of the matter is just like, look, this is what you promised and this is what I got.
Right.
So why is it my fault that I got excited about that promise you made? So
yeah, it's funny. I think it was last E3, the last digital E3 Bethesda event.
Yeah.
That either you and I or Shanae and I had like just a little friendly wager, not wagering anything, just a little bet going as to whether Bethesda would apologize for 76.
Yeah.
And of course they still to this day have not, know. It would say what you will about Cyberpunk, but at least they have at least said, took some blame and said, I don't know. I mean, don't get me wrong, that game's still a mess, but the whole situation's a mess. But at least they could muster up the fucking balls to say, hey, we're sorry about that, right? Like, think about the fucking PlayStation outage when you've got the PlayStation execs bowing for like a full fucking minute.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, don't get me wrong, apology's not going to fix anything.
Sure.
But I mean, fuck, especially if I paid for this shit.
Yeah. Well, like, I think that, like...
Especially if I backed this shit and it wouldn't have happened without people like me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think...
I don't know.
I think that 76 and Cyberpunk were actually similar in the way that, like... So, like, I think that these are both cases of, like, this is what you showed me. This is what you told me that my money would get, and this is what my money actually got me.
Right. And that happens, right? That always happens. It's always the case. We get vertical slices of games running on PC all the time.
Right.
all the time, right?
Right.
Think about Insomniac Spider-Man and the whole puddle thing.
Oh my
which
God.
was fucking dumb,
That's
but
so-
people made such a big deal out of it.
Yeah.
The game was still gorgeous.
Right.
The game was still fun to play.
Yeah.
You know, just there's an extreme to that though. You know.
Sure. And
Yeah.
and I and don't get me wrong, I do think that like I don't mean to say that consumers aren't shitty in some capacity, because they definitely can be,
Oh yeah.
and very frequently actually.
Yeah.
But I think also that like the onus is on the consumer not to like the onus is on the consumer to meet the very, very low expectation of not sending people death threats over a video game.
Sure.
Right? And the onus is on the developer and publisher to make sure that they put out the product that they advertised. And don't get me wrong, I think that if you get something that you weren't expecting, then you have every right to be upset.
Yeah.
Right? But how you deal with those feelings is on you.
And I don't even think that you weren't expecting, right? Like, I can go to the store
Yeah.
and buy a grape Fanta
Sure.
and think, man, this looks like it's going to be delicious.
Sure.
And then I drink it and I hate it. Right? That's not Fanta's fault.
Yeah. The only
That's my fault.
the obligation on Fanta's part is that it's grape
Expectation.
flavored. That's their obligation.
Right. The expectation, that's my fault,
Right.
unless they told me what to expect.
Right.
You know?
Right. And I think
Fanta didn't tell me this grape drink is delicious.
they just said it's great.
Right. But Pete Hines, or whoever it was, I think it was Pete Hines or
Todd Howard.
one of them told me I was going to get a canvas bag,
Yeah.
and I got a fucking HEB bag. You know?
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, right?
Not me personally,
Like,
but,
yeah,
you know, people.
Because why would you? But
Right.
because the map glows in the fucking dark. That's why. Which to this day, like that is the most like what's funny to me about that about that event is that like when you have to tell people like, no, we didn't plant audience members. It's like, okay, even if that wasn't the case, you could see how it would look like that to an
Right.
observer
Right.
when people
Yeah.
react that way to a glow in the dark map, which by the way, I mean, glow in the dark is not a new thing. And
Right.
like, you know, I had glow in the dark Ninja Turtles pajamas when I was 8 years old. So that's not a new thing.
Yeah.
But the fact of the matter is that like, and there's a difference between saying like, hey, this game is really fun, you should buy it. And if I don't have fun, well, I mean, then again, fun is subjective, right?
Right.
But the difference is that, like you said, you're getting a canvas bag, and what I actually received in the mail was a nylon bag,
Right.
right? So that's literally a different product. But I also think that like the standard that we set for these things is like inconsistent, I think, because I think that like some people get a pass and other people don't get a pass, and it's all like based on like brand recognition and how much did you like their last game, right? And that is the amount of goodwill that they can burn with you, right?
I mean, there's no such thing, right? Like, there's no such thing as goodwill in gaming anymore.
Yeah.
If you think about, like, Inafune, people loved him before Mighty Number 9.
Yeah.
It was a thing to put his name on a game,
Right.
you know? Now it's not, and it probably never will be again.
Yeah.
Same thing, CD Projekt Red. People loved them for what they did with Witcher 3 and how community-friendly they were and how generous they were with free content. And now people are just ready to fucking shit all over them, you know?
Yeah.
Same could be said for Street Fighter, right? Like Capcom brings Street Fighter 4, which basically brings life back to fighting games.
Absolutely.
And then 5 people are ready to, they got their fucking pitchforks out, you know?
Yeah.
Like, there is no loyalty anymore.
Yeah.
And maybe that's a good thing, maybe it's a bad thing. I don't really know.
Well,
But when I can play fucking Proteus, that I believe was made by 2 dudes,
sure.
you know,
Sure.
then why, I would assume that Bethesda, with their hundreds, if not thousands of employees,
Yeah.
could send me a canvas bag.
Well, I honestly look. I've said many times that I think brand loyalty is stupid. Like I do not believe in being loyal to any brand. Like the relationship between me,
Loyal, no, but like I do think that there's certain teams that could deserve a pass once in a while. I don't think that's CD Projekt Red.
Yeah.
I don't think that's Capcom.
Yeah.
You know, I don't. But like, you know, people shat all over Ninja Theory for DMC.
that game fucking rocks though.
And I'm like, well, it might not be your thing.
It's not a bad
Ninja
game.
Theory has made some great games.
Fantastic games.
Y'all
ever play Enslaved?
They're not some crazy big team, you know?
Yeah.
At the time that DMC came out, I think there were probably less than 50 people.
Right.
You
they,
know?
they didn't have Microsoft money back then.
Mm-hmm. You know, teams like that, like a Housemarque, you know, teams like of that size or less
Yeah.
that have a reputation of being good,
Yeah.
when they put out something that's not exactly what you want,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, people gave Ninja Theory a fucking hard time over DMC,
Yeah.
you know? I don't think that's necessary,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, but like I've said many times, right? Like that, like it is a thing to like hate games that you've never played, right?
Yeah.
And like there's okay, so there's on one hand, right? There are games that I will never play, like from like a moral standpoint, right? Like
Right.
there are games that I do not approve of from a moral standpoint, right? But then like a lot of the time is you see people who come out like who disapprove of a game just because a bunch of other people disapprove of that game.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you don't even know what you're fucking talking about,
Mm-hmm.
right? And like it's not an informed opinion because the only way to form an informed opinion about a product is to actually use it. Now you can make an informed decision about the product based on other customers' feedback, but like that,
Right.
but you can't use that as you can't parrot what they said as your own opinion, right?
Yeah.
And that's something that you see all the time. And you know, I think that a lot of the time, you see these games that are actually pretty good, and there are people who do enjoy them. But if there's a very vocal group of people who don't enjoy them, and I don't want to say that I am loath to say that use the phrase that it is a popular thing to hate them because I feel like that comes off as kind of weird. But like,
But it is
yeah, you know,
popular to hate Fortnite.
yeah. There's
Even
nothing.
though clearly it's popular to like Fortnite.
There's nothing. There's,
You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's always the biggest games
Yeah.
that it's popular to dislike. My kids are guilty of it.
Yeah.
You know, as much as I try to drill into their heads, don't hate something just because it's popular.
Right.
They still do.
Yeah.
You know,
And like, so where do you think that comes from? Do you think that's like?
I don't know.
Do you think?
I don't know, but I mean, look at all the games that people shit on. Your Call of Duties, your Fortnites, your Minecraft, your GTA. Some of the best-selling games
Yeah.
ever made.
Yeah.
Clearly, a lot of people like them.
Right.
You know.
Yeah.
But
Well, I guess it's like people want to like. I guess in some way everybody wants to be that person who's has very niche tastes and
Sure.
like knows about the
Sure.
obscure thing that other people don't know about, just so they can be like, I like that thing before you guys liked it, and I'm the one who told you about that thing. And
fine, you can be that person.
yeah,
Doesn't mean you have to hate the other shit.
yeah.
You know.
Well, like, and I think that like, yeah, I do think that like having
I've never played Fortnite.
yeah.
You know,
It's-
not once.
I-
But I look at it and I'm like, yeah, that's probably a pretty good game.
Yeah, it is a
You know?
Fortnite is a perfectly competent shooter.
Yeah.
And like, and I have played my fair share of it. It's
And you know more than anybody else that I am up my own ass
Yeah.
about my opinions on games, you know? It
But,
doesn't have to be one or the other. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, I don't think that games have ever been like a binary thing, right? Like, I think there's like a lot of gradients when it comes to like all forms of media,
Yeah.
especially video games, where like it is an interactive experience, and like that experience varies from one person to another. Like, so I don't think that like these concepts are like necessarily mutually exclusive. But I do think that there is something to be there. There is a sense of pride that comes with being like, you know what? There's this little game that I really like that I had
some Crash Bandicoot over there.
Yeah, she's playing Crash Bandicoot. Like, by the way,
Sorry.
Like as an aside, Tom. Last night I played the most Crash Bandicoot I've ever played in my entire life, which was most of one level. Okay? And so Kaylee was telling me that she played that game as a child.
Yeah.
And so I played Crash Bandicoot for, I don't know, 25 minutes last night. The most Crash Bandicoot I've ever played in my life.
Mm-hmm.
If I had played that game as a child, I would never pick up that game again. Crash Bandicoot is too hard for me.
No.
Like, I can't, like, it's
Child Ryan and adult Ryan are different. They exist in different times.
Like,
my sister and I,
yeah,
we fucking beat the shit out of Crash 2 as kids.
yeah,
Me going back to play it now, I can play it. I'm sure I could beat it.
yeah.
I'm not gonna.
So okay. So if you're listening to the audio, what Tom is seeing is that my wife is playing Crash Bandicoot on the TV behind me.
Yeah.
And so I'm glad you brought this up, Tom, because I want to actually ask you, as far as the Insane trilogy, is there a difference in feel between Crash Bandicoot 1 and Crash Bandicoot 2?
I think that as far as the Insane trilogy goes, they try to make them all similar so you could jump between them.
Right.
But I could definitely be wrong. I don't know for sure.
Okay.
I know the geometry is the same except for like maybe his feet. There was something with his feet that they changed.
Yeah.
I don't know. Great games though. Great games.
I mean, Tell
her if she gets stuck on the bridge level, that she can walk on the ropes. Tell her she can walk on the ropes when she gets there.
Okay. I will tell. Oh, we had me not knowing really anything about Crash Bandicoot. She saw Coco Bandicoot, and she was certain that Coco was his girlfriend. And I was like, well, he doesn't have to have. I was like,
his girlfriend's got the big boobs.
Well, I did not know that, but I was like, no, that's his sister. And
there's like, I think it's part 3, Warped, where like you see Crash. I'm pretty sure you see his girlfriend in that one, right?
Yeah.
And basically,
is she also a Bandicoot?
Yeah.
Okay.
Basically, what she looks like is like if Crash Bandicoot had sex with one of those mud flap ladies.
Oh, okay. I know
that would be his girlfriend.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
But yeah, I tried Crash Bandicoot for the first time last night, and he has like his jumps feel very weighty. He feels very heavy when he jumps, which is not something I'm used to when it comes to platformers. So that was something that I was not ready for. And my
favorite thing about Crash Bandicoot, I do like the games, but my favorite thing about it is thinking about it.
Okay.
And thinking about its contemporaries from its competitors.
Right.
Like this is where Sony went.
Yeah.
And Mario 64 is where Nintendo went.
Right.
And they're so different, but you could see how both of them came to that conclusion.
Right.
It's very interesting.
So I actually wanted to ask you, because I had this conversation recently. I had a conversation about Mario 64 recently with a friend of mine. And so we were talking about it, and he said, I will agree that Mario 64 is a very influential game. I just don't think it's a very good game.
He said that?
Yeah.
Agree to disagree. I think it's fantastic. I've played it this year and I've enjoyed myself,
Yeah.
I'm sure some of that's nostalgia.
Sure.
But I mean, at this point I've got nostalgia for Sunshine and for Galaxy, and I still like it.
My stance on it is that I find it very difficult to, in 2021, to have any. I find it difficult to have any sort of valid criticism about a game that was made in 1996. Because I feel like everything, like the advancements that I have experienced between then and now would color my perception.
I disagree.
Of that game.
I think like you saying Crash's jump is too heavy. That's a valid criticism, and I'm sure that's a criticism some people probably had back then.
Yeah.
Because what are you going to compare it to? You're going to compare it to a Sonic jump. You're going to compare it to a Mario jump.
Right.
And they are different, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, as far as like visuals go, yeah, that's a little bit hard,
Yeah.
right? It's hard to criticize those things.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's easy. But
Well, there were some games that looked bad back then too, right?
right, exactly.
But like I was thinking about like, and this is kind of like this. I'll just give this is a little taste of a topic that I want to say for when Shanae is here. But I was having a conversation with Kaylee about like there were every generation of consoles when I was a child. I would look at the games and I would say, it doesn't get any better than this. It's never, ever going to be any better than this.
I only said that with a couple of games. A couple of specific games.
Well,
Never every console.
Well, see, here's the thing. Is like, I don't know why I kept saying that, because every time it just kept getting better.
It's because that's all your brain could conceive.
Yeah.
Dude, I've heard you say that recently about current games. I'm like, no, dude, it's going to get better than this.
Well, I feel like it can only look so good before it starts getting creepy.
Yeah, but like, I mean, we thought that when we played Gears of fucking War, you know?
Oh yeah. Well, Gears of War looks creepy for different reasons.
But you know what I mean, though? Like,
Yeah.
I remember. I mean, for me, it was Donkey Kong Country.
Right.
I remember thinking, "Wow,
Sure.
this looks amazing."
Right.
This gorilla is something else.
Well, I think Donkey Kong Country. I think the thing with Donkey Kong Country, honestly, is that when Donkey Kong Country was first revealed to you, when I can first enter your consciousness, your only point of reference for Donkey Kong was like he was like as a 2D guy, a little 2D sprite, little 2D gorilla boy, right?
Sure.
And so like and as far as you know, that's all Donkey Kong had ever. This was before Mario was 3D, right?
Yeah.
And so like to see Donkey Kong Country, like they can fucking make that gorilla with all those dimensions and like make him look like that on my Super Nintendo.
Yeah.
So like
it was weird back then, though,
Yeah.
man, because like I remember going like flipping through Game Pros and shit,
yeah.
and like you see some weird obscure game for like the 3DO or something like that,
Yeah.
right? Where like there's fucking like actual people,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
Like a Night Trap or something like that.
Yeah,
I'm
like
that's the game. I can play that.
Like we
You know,
didn't,
of
we
course,
didn't.
That's not what it is.
We didn't know that FMV was like what it was,
Yeah.
but you see
Yeah.
you see screenshots of these games. And you're like, what the fuck? How does this game look so real?
Yeah.
Right? Like I remember even playing Area 51 and be like, that real ass dude is in this game right now.
Yeah.
Right? And that was crazy to me. But like, you know, I think, but like I think about like, you know, I was talking to her about, because I was talking about, you know, games that you think that, you know, even at the time, like look kind of funny in different ways. And I was talking to her about GoldenEye, and I was talking to her about, I was like the faces of these guys are just like stretched out JPEGs over someone's head, and like, and I was telling her like about the, and I was talking to her about like the block hands and like, and like even
But at the same time, though, I remember firing up GoldenEye for the first time with my dad, and you're at the dam, and I'm shooting at a guard, and they jump and roll, and we're just like, what?
Because they don't, because
we've been playing Doom.
Yeah, they never got out of the way in Doom.
Right. And still, like, the animation for GoldenEye, compared to even games like Quake.
Sure.
Yes, Quake is a better looking game.
Sure.
But the animation was still better in GoldenEye.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And like this is, and trust me, this was not an indictment of GoldenEye as a game.
Yeah.
It's just that like.
But I do love that, the JPEG textures.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I love Silent Hill too, but like Toluca Lake is just a postcard.
Yeah.
That they threw in there. You know?
Well, what's funny about that is that I remember when we were playing through that with our friend Sarah, and then you pointed, and then like it was not something that I had ever noticed, and then like you pointed it out, and then my eyes just fixated on it. So I don't know, it's little things like that, but like yeah, man, I think that honestly that this has been like a really interesting year as far as for a lot of reasons. There's been a lot of we've had a lot of ups and downs over the last year, but In reference specifically to video games, like it's been something to like kind of watch these companies like adjust and try to kind of realign themselves like in the midst of like what is an unprecedented global event. Watching companies like try to contend with shortages and try to contend with like remote workspaces. So, I think,
but I think like that's where these smaller teams are thriving.
Sure.
Yeah. Teams like these Proteus guys and like fucking Supergiant with Hades and like, it affects I'm not going to say it doesn't affect them. I'm sure it does.
Sure.
But, coordinating 5 people is a lot different than coordinating, 500 people.
Yeah. Well, because I do think that like there's definitely like when it comes to game development, there is bound to be a good amount of, hey, come over to my workstation and look at this thing.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so which is obviously is not something that you can do like given our current predicament. But I honestly, I feel like we could go on for hours because this is just how like our banter is such. But it's always nice to like we usually have like a prepared topic that we want to talk about and that becomes a thing. But sometimes it's just nice to kind of just shoot the shit. And
what's funny is like before we ever recorded a podcast, this is what our conversation.
Yeah, this was just
this.
Well, this is where the podcast was born from, right? Like this, like back when we were living together, we would sit on the back porch, just talking games for like hours at a time, going through cartons of cigarettes, like just talking games for like hours at a time, and then one day we were just like, why don't we just start recording it? But it's funny because like when we have these conversations, like we very frequently revisit topics that we've discussed previously, between you and I. But like every time we revisit these topics, like we have like all this new perspective to like.
Right. Yeah. It's always through a new lens.
Yeah. So it's really fun to kind of just like, kind of just do that sometimes, but anyway, Tom, do you have any closing thoughts?
No, not really. Play Proteus.
Yeah, that game fucking
play
rips.
That.
Yeah.
If you got a computer, I think it's coming to consoles eventually. I've got opinions of that sort of game being on console, but if it's all you got, play it on console too.
Yeah. And hey, if they throw a mouse and keyboard support on that bitch,
there you go.
Yeah. So
there you go. Hey, I'm just gonna say it. I like it more than the new Doom.
Oh, you heard it. You heard it here first, folks. You heard it here first.
Yeah.
I guess that
you get that weird red lightning gun. It's so cool.
We need more. I think my final thought is we just need more cool video games. We need more video games that like make you say that was fucking cool. That was fucking cool. Huh?
You got a little De Niro there?
Huh? I realized that my face was doing it, and I was like, I'm just gonna lean into it because it's not often that I can just do it at will.
Sometimes Bobby comes out.
Yeah. But anyway, this has been the Save Continue podcast. Find us on your favorite podcast streaming app. We're also on YouTube. Anyway, my name is Ryan Robinson. That's Tom Shelby.
Bye, guys.
See you next week.